Hey, I'm Tim with the American Smoke Company, and I'm here to talk to you about salt, how to use salt, what salt does to the food that you're gonna cook, and in an effort to bring the average home cook from maybe a 0 knowledge about cooking up to about a 4. Understanding how to use salt, understanding what salt's doing to the food that you're cooking is the most fundamental aspect to good cooking. And as we know, salt's put in almost every single product. You put it on your vegetables, you put it on eggs, you put it on meat, you can even put it on desserts to flavor them up. And so the more you understand, the better you're going to be. And so that's my mission with the American Smoke Company. Now, a word about salt to get started. Almost every culture, I'd probably say every culture in the world, uses some type of salt to flavor their food. And different types of salts have different potency. And so what we use at the American Smoke Company right now, we're gonna branch this out, is pure Pacific Ocean sea salt. Sea salt is a much saltier salt than a kosher salt, for example, and a lot of restaurants use kosher salt a lot. So we won't need as much salt as we would if we were doing kosher, but as you go down the journey of understanding salts, there's thousands of different types of salts that you can use, and I'd encourage you to keep branching out, keep learning, and that's what we plan to do right alongside with you. But a note about salt. What is salt doing when you put it on your meat specifically? Well, when you put salt on your meat, with enough time, and each meat that you're gonna flavor has a different period of time that you wanna leave it on there, it actually undergoes a chemical process. First, given enough time, the salt is gonna dissipate throughout the entire piece of meat. And then it's gonna bring out the natural flavors of the meat that you're eating. Now, there's always the opportunity to oversalt. There's always the opportunity to undersalt. You're gonna have to keep experimenting and learning. And so, but that's all part of the journey. That's all part of the fun. But when you put salt on the meat, salt actually starts to break down the strands of protein in the meat and turns them into a gel. And so when you cook meat, it's gonna be much, much more tender. It's gonna be more flavorful, more tender. You're gonna get more enjoyment out of it. And so that's why we're all learning about how to use salt better. So I'm gonna give you 4 basic types of meats that you are probably cooking inside the house, grilling, on a regular basis. I'm gonna talk to you about how long to salt them, how to package them in between, when to pull them out, and then we'll go on to how to cook them later. So for our purposes right now, we're gonna talk about a bistro steak, we're gonna talk about a bone-in pork chop, we're gonna talk about a skin-on chicken breast, and just some regular ground burger. So we have those right here, and I'm gonna choose to use our cherry salt, our cherry wood smoked salt, that is. And you want a decent amount of salt on both sides of the meat that you are cooking, or going to cook. And you really need to understand ahead of time, the day or 2 days beforehand, what you're gonna be cooking a day or 2 days from them, because you want to salt the food with enough time. And so for steaks, I recommend minimum 24 hours. You don't need to go 36, 48 hours, whatever. Well, here's what I'd say. When you go shopping, you bring your meat home, you salt it then, you stick it back in the fridge, and then you wait the requisite amount of time before you cook. And so all I'm gonna do is pinch the salt out, and I'm gonna spread it evenly over this steak. You don't wanna overcoat. Again, we're not trying to preserve the meat. All we're trying to do is to get it salty so that when we stick it in the fridge, it's gonna be evenly coated, and that salt's gonna be able to work itself all the way down. And I would make sure, depending on the size of your steak, get the sides, got all the surface area, but that's about good for what we need. If we go over here to the pork chop, this is a bone-in pork chop. I got a big bone here. The only thing, it's gonna be the same. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. You just wanna sprinkle salt on. You wanna get it completely covered. You don't need to worry about the fatty parts, and you don't need to worry about the bone. Salt is not going to penetrate those areas well. And so just focus on the actual meat of the pork chop that you're gonna be eating. Now for a skin-on chicken breast, skin-on is my preferred way. You can do it with it off. It's a little bit more expensive to buy these cuts with it on, but the flavor is so much better when you get crispy skin, and I know you guys all agree with me there. And so just make sure, tuck it in there, make sure you get it on. Now, given enough time, this salt is gonna disappear, and so you know right now that you're putting it on everywhere. But when you go to pull this out of the fridge later, it's going to completely disappear because it's going to dissipate throughout the meat. And now on a ground burger, what I would recommend is you can do this 2 hours before you're ready to grill. You don't need to do this 24 hours. You just salt. I would salt lightly both sides. And what's fun for an experiment, if you want to salt and then some of your patties and then don't salt some others, you're going to see this thing turn a dark, dark red before you grill or throw it on the skillet or whatever you're going to do. And so I would do this 2 hours at a time. You can throw it back in the fridge for an hour. Let all of this food come to temp for about an hour before you throw it on the grill or in the oven or whatever you're doing to it, because you want to allow the meat to warm up a little bit before we grill. So this is the basics of salting it. Nothing crazy. Obviously, you guys know how to do that, but here's what I'm gonna recommend. Take this, put it in a Ziploc bag, put each one of these in their own Ziploc bag or in a Pyrex dish, some types of covered dish. Put it back in the refrigerator and then keep it there. I would keep the steak for 24 to 48 hours, pork chop and chicken for 24 hours, and then the burger just for a couple hours. If you're gonna do something delicate like a fish, you really only wanna do fish for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes before you're ready to cook it. You don't want to oversalt it. It's a very delicate meat. So just as you're getting that fish prepared, go ahead and salt it before you start your fire and you'll be good to go. With our small batch smoked salts, what we are doing is bringing you regional flavors from the United States of America and helping you to put it directly into your foods. Not only is the salt gonna tenderize the meat that you're cooking, like I just told you, it's also gonna add a smoke flavor to your food. Now, this isn't gonna overpower your taste buds, like maybe if you had an offset smoker or an automatic smoker that you set and forget about, because it's not putting that actual smoke on your meat. But this is a cheater way to get smoke into your meat when you have less time and you're gonna throw it on a propane grill. If you don't have a smoker, if you don't wanna take all that time, this is the way to do it. And it's gonna allow you to put a smoke flavor into the foods you wouldn't normally smoke. Chilies, soups, avocado toast, eggs in the morning, potatoes, vegetables of any kind. This is a way. As we smoke the salt, the actual smoke gets stuck onto the salt. That's why we use a coarse ground, because it gets more surface area for smoke to adhere to. And then as that salt dissipates throughout your food, it releases that smoke into your food. So this is a great way not only to kick up the natural flavors of your food, but put that smoke flavor that we all love into your food. And so this is an experiment. You experiment with different flavors. We have 6 different flavors right now. We are always experimenting, always bringing in new flavors, so always stay tuned for what we are doing. You can go to americansmokeco.com to find all of our offerings, to find recipes, to find where to buy, any further information that you want. And all we want to do is to help you on your journey to create good food, to enjoy the time sitting with your family and eating.